somebody has to do this stuff. Kind of foggy. Howdy, my name's Troy Fowler, and I'm the weird guy who fishes in the pool in the neighborhood. The reason why you fish in a pool, despite my neighbors making fun of me, who their biggest goal in life is just to be safe and buy a BMW. So boring, but keeps them out of the water, so they're not there competing fishing with me. But the reason you fish in a pool is so you can see what your lures are doing. So retrieving a corky isn't, there's a lot of videos out there like this is some kind of a magical process. And it is not that hard. It's just you don't know what, you're not envisioning what is happening underwater, and you need to go watch jerk bait videos with the bass guys. The retrieve is key because you want the lure to jump side to side but not go forward very much. I just got back from a trip with Ernest Cisneros and we absolutely smoked them. And we were throwing the corky, the corky fat boy. I threw pink one day and then I threw this one, and it is wrecked. That thing is destroyed. There's teeth marks, it's all chewed up. I bet I caught 40 some odd trout on it, and some biggest trout of the day was 7.5. That was my personal best. It was a pig, and we had a bunch of 5s and stuff. The rod, the reel I'm throwing, it's a loose saltwater reel, nothing special, 7.5 to 1. I'm throwing 20-pound braid, and the rod, so it doesn't matter what the brand of the rod is, but this is a Falcon. What you're looking for, this is a 7-foot 6-inch rod. It's medium action, but when I was playing with it in the store, it's actually my crankbait and jerkbait rod for bass fishing. And what you want is tip and a backbone. So you want the tip to give, but you don't want to bend it all the way back here. If you stick a 9-pound or a 10-pound trout, you need a little backbone to do something with them. And if the rod's flexing back here because it's super light or super ultra light, you're gonna have trouble landing big fish. It's just gonna be a wrestling match. And what I mean by tip is, here's the front of the rod, and you can see how it flexes right there, but it stops right in the middle of the rod. So it's got a soft tip, and the tip allows the corky to flutter back and forth without going forward. I'm going to reverse the camera and show you the retrieve, and then kind of describe what's going on underwater. I will try to get some footage, but I don't know if I can do that. So the key to this deal is to throw slack back to the bait. So pop it and throw the rod forward. Pop it and throw the rod forward. Pop it and throw the rod forward. And all you're doing with the reel is reeling up the slack. So you pop it, reel it forward, and you reel up the slack, and you're almost on a semi-slack line. When you jerk the rod, you should see your line snapping off the water. Like that. And you're just reeling up the slack. A lot of people do this. They jerk it and then they reel it. And they jerk it and they reel it. That may be the retrieve. And if that's the retrieve that's working that day, go with it, dude. Don't fight with me on that. But the best retrieve is to pop it and shoot it back. Pop it and shoot it back. So I'm going to change the camera angle. Jerk it like this, and then you throw it back. Throw it some slack. Real short twitches, but throw that rod tip back at the bait. And you're just reeling up the slack. what that bait's doing is it's going boom, 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 but it's not going forward. Just smaller than the last one. Not much. He ain't much smaller, but he's smaller. Pretty good one. Front hooks. So what you want, as you see here, is you want the bait to not advance. It's going to have to advance some when you're jerking on it, right? It's going to move. You want to not pull it. You want it to jump in their face and stop. Jump in their face and stop. Some days it's going to be a real fast retrieve, just keep jerking it. Some days it's going to be real slow and you have to leave pretty big pauses in there. And then one trick is, if you're doing that cadence, boom, 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 and the corky's jumping back and forth and everything's working and they're just not hitting it, occasionally just dead reel it about 2 cranks in case they're tracking it. You know, speckled trout are big time lure followers. And sometimes I'll sit there and watch it. And then if you just throw a reel in there, don't pull it or anything, just reel and then start popping it again. Sometimes you'll surprise them with that bait, just scooting off in front of them. But you want to think about the bait stopping and mostly going side to side, but not getting away from them. It's cold, they're not moving much, and you want it to jump in their face and go bop, 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 but not go, you don't want it moving 3 feet every time you jerk the rod. You want it to move a foot forward and 2 feet sideways, because it goes back and forth and does a lot in a short distance. There's a lot of erratic motion. It's a total reaction strike. Sometimes they're just feeding and they're going to smoke it because it's mullet and they're going nuts. I got that. But when it's, you know, just normal grind fishing, you want to get a reaction strike that thing just jumps into a pothole, jumps sideways into a pothole, and they're just predators, and they jump it and they smash it. And that's how you retrieve a corky. So it's really a combination of having the right rod that's soft. And if you're going to go soft, go softer. Don't go stiffer. You already have braid. When they hit it, they'll jerk that braid out of your hand. So you got that going for you if you're fishing with braid. Mono will work as well. But it's semi-slack. Throw the rod back to the bait. Jerk it back, pop. It's just a popping motion. Pop, pop, like a popping cork. You pop down and throw the rod back. And that creates slack and allows that bait to go side to side. If you just pull back like this, pull back, it'll walk a little bit, but it mostly goes forward like kind of like a crankbait, and that's not what you want. You want it to jump around. Final modification. Hey, this is how to modify a corky for the best action out there. And I'm going to start with, the barbarians in saltwater don't pay attention to the bass guys. The bass guys really pay attention to details because they fish in the same lake that gets pounded and pounded and pounded, and the fish get pounded over and over. We have a little bit larger ecosystem. The fish move in and out of the channels and swim around a lot more, but the bass guys are fishing in really highly pressured waters, and there's a lot of details. This is a Rapala jerkbait that I like to throw in freshwater. And you see that little thing right there? They call that a ripstop, and they put that tail on there to stall the bait. So when you're jerking it, this thing's like a rudder, and it makes it go wham, 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 but it doesn't advance very easy. This is a great shallow water bait. Inside of under 4 foot deep in freshwater, I've done very well with this particular bait. It doesn't run real deep, so it's specific for depth, but that rudder on there, flat, stops it. It's called a rip stop. You rip it and it stops because of the rudder. You see a lot of people talking about corkies and they bend the tail down, and nobody's really described why. I just hear them say, well, you bend the tail down because it swims different. It's the same thing. It's a rudder. And what you want is you want the water pressure pulling on the tail to make it walk better. I also bend the nose down just a little bit so the bait comes perfectly straight out of the package. The reason why you bend the tail is it's the same thing as this rudder on this Rapala. It pulls against the water and makes it want to stop and not move forward. You don't want it moving forward very far. You can't help it. Every time you pull, it's coming forward. You really want it to go like this forward, not this. You don't want it to jump 3 feet. So if you bend the tail down, it tends to stall the bait better. And I bend the nose down. It seems like this bait runs a little deeper, and we're talking, you know, that deep, much deeper. If the fish are up and you bend the nose up and you're fishing it right under the surface and they're eating it, fish it that way. This is just how I start. A little bit down on the nose, a little bit down on the tail, and then the final thing is it's got to be straight. Okay, this one's not. Keep it straight. If this tail gets bent over to the side, or you catch a fish and you throw it over like that, it's going to spin on you and look real unnatural, not to mention it's going to wind up your line. Okay, that's how to throw a corky and the retrieve and all that good stuff. All right, I'm here with Captain Ernest Cisneros, and he has a great conservation strategy called the Empty Stringer.
It's called the Empty Stringers Catch and Release Program.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So that program, I started it about maybe 4.5 years ago. We're going on 5 this coming April. And what it is, you know, if you agree before the trip to release everything, which that's what the program is about, catch and release. Some of our sponsors have come together and have given us some swag items to give to the people that agree to join on the catch and release program. And so over the 4.5 years, we have released we're probably close to 9,000 keeper fish that would have gone to the fillet table if it wasn't for the program. So again, you want to go on a fishing trip, I ask you, would you like to release, you know, would you like to participate in Empty Stringers? What's that? Well, if you agree before the trip to release everything you catch, we count the number of keepers on each trip, and we total them at the end of the year, and we're close to 9,000 over 4.5 years.
So we had 34 yesterday.
34, and
we got some pigs. We had some big trout yesterday.
We did. We got 24 fish today.
So and we're throwing everything back. So it's a great conservation effort. If they're dead, they don't keep swimming. They're not going to stay out there. So really consider, you guys, I'm just going to be more direct than Ernest here. The same guys that I know who go bass fishing and never kill them come down here to saltwater and decide they're stacking them up. And I have no idea why that is. This is a great program. We're out here lure fishing. We're guided, paying our fees. We have all the travel costs and expenses, but we're not bringing anything home because we think the fish are more important to catch than killing them for some glory shot on the nails.
You know, photographs are great. They're memories you can keep. And I look at as the fish as my business partners. Right. So I try to take care of them.
Right. And of course, okay, just to be clear, if we gut hook one, gill rake one, he's bleeding real bad, we're taking him. But we haven't had that happen yet.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes I get groups that maybe fish with me 2 days, and maybe one day they keep fish and then the next day they release. Right. But because of that program, they're, you know, willing to participate and to help the conservation of our fisheries here in the lower Laguna Madre.
All right. Thank you, Ernest.
Yes,
let's go whack him.
Let's go.
He's going to fish with a fly rod. We'll see what happens with that.